The World War II submarine that went down in battle. The American families back here at home with so many questions. What a team of explorers just found.
A lost World War II submarine was just found by Navy divers, and the footage from the wreckage is leaving everyone speechless. The USS Greyback vanished in 1944, leaving 80 sailors on a patrol that never ended. People thought they knew the coordinates, but the truth was buried under a translation mistake.
We haven't broadcast this, and we wanted to be the first ones to tell you this is the Greyback.
When a high-tech drone finally reached the floor of the East China Sea, it found the sub perfectly preserved by the freezing cold. But wait, there is one big problem. The position of the guns proves the crew was fighting a secret battle. One digit that changed history. Most people have no idea that the answer was hidden in a single piece of paper the whole time. A Japanese researcher was looking through old wartime documents when he found something that everyone else had missed for a lifetime. It was a single digit that had been translated wrong. That one number shifted the search area by 100 miles. When a high-tech underwater drone finally went down to the new location, it reached 1,400 feet into the midnight zone. The cameras found the Greyback sitting upright on the ocean floor. But it also caught something that made the people watching the screens leave the control room. The men inside had not died in a simple explosion. What the cameras recorded showed the world how they actually spent their final moments. The USS Greyback was not just another boat. When it left Pearl Harbor for its 10th war patrol, it was already a legend. In less than 2 years of fighting, it had sunk over 63,000 tons of enemy shipping. It sent 14 vessels to the bottom of the sea. This made it one of the highest-scoring boats in the entire Navy. Other crews talked about the Greyback like people talk about a sports team on a massive winning streak. Everyone wanted to know the secret to their success. The secret was Commander John Moore. He was 39 years old and had spent his whole adult life in submarines. He understood the math of underwater war. He knew how to follow a convoy for days and exactly when to fire his torpedoes. His crew trusted him with their lives. In this kind of combat, trust is the only thing you have. When you are sealed inside a steel tube 200 feet underwater, the man giving orders is the only thing between you and the bottom of the ocean. The 80 men on that boat were some of the best the Navy had to offer. By 1944, they had learned hard lessons about what worked and what got people lost. They were very good at their jobs. On January 28, 1944, the Greyback left Hawaii and headed for the East China Sea. The mission was simple. They were supposed to find supply lines, sink ships, and come back home. It was a dangerous area within range of enemy planes, but they had been in tough spots before. Submarine rules meant they had to stay radio silent. A single signal could tell the enemy exactly where they were. So the boats went quiet when they left the dock and stayed quiet until they returned. Families knew this was part of the life. Weeks would pass without a word, and that was normal. The Navy only called home when something went very wrong. The Greyback was supposed to be back by March 7th. That day passed, then the next week passed. No sub appeared on the horizon and no radio message came through. On March 30th, the Navy said the boat was overdue and likely lost. 80 families got telegrams that changed their lives forever. The words were simple, but they were also a nightmare. The message said their loved ones were gone and the Navy did not know where or how. When a regular ship sinks, you find oil or wood on the water. Sometimes bodies wash up on a beach months later. Submarines do not give you that kind of closure. They just disappear into the dark. The Greyback was gone, but the question that would haunt people for 75 years was where it actually went. After the war, the Navy tried to find out what happened to the 52 American submarines lost in the fight. They looked through captured records and pilot reports. For the Greyback, they thought they found the final answer. A Japanese pilot had reported hitting a sub with a 500-pound bomb on the exact day the Greyback went missing. He logged the coordinates with military care. Analysts matched the date and the location. It seemed like the case was closed. The official history said it was 100 miles east of Okinawa. But when people went to that spot, the ocean was empty. Wait, there is one big problem with the old maps. Final stand in the East China Sea. Let us switch gears for a second and look at why the search failed for so long. It was not because the equipment was bad, the problem was the map itself. In 2018, a man named Yutaka Iwasaki was doing some research in the archives. He was looking at the original handwritten Japanese notes from the war. He compared the numbers in those notes to the numbers in the American history books. They did not match up. The original report said the longitude was 128 degrees east. The American translation from 1946 said 127 degrees. In the middle of the vast ocean, that 1 degree is a massive distance. It meant every search for 70 years was 100 miles off the target. Iwasaki told the people at the Lost 52 project about his discovery. They realized the math was perfect. They finally had a real chance to find the boat. They launched a new mission in 2019 using a ship called the Petrel. This ship had the best underwater robots in the world. They used drones that could swim near the bottom and paint a picture of the floor using sound. The depth was the biggest challenge. They were looking for the wreck 1,400 feet down. That is the midnight zone where no sunlight ever goes. The water is almost freezing and the pressure is over 600 pounds for every square inch. That much pressure would crush a human body in a heartbeat. No diver could ever reach this place. Only a machine could go down and come back. The seafloor in that part of the sea is full of mountains and rocks. It makes the sonar pictures very confusing. Every time the drone saw a weird shape, the team had to check it out. Most of the time, it was just a rock. Days went by and the crew started to get tired. They felt the weight of the mission. Some people even talked about a curse on the ship, but the leader of the team trusted the new numbers. He knew the math was right. Then the sonar hit something hard. It was a shape that looked like a submarine hull. They sent down a smaller robot with cameras and lights. This one was tied to the ship with a long cord so the crew could see the video in real time. Everyone gathered around the screens. No one said a word. At 1,400 feet, the lights of the robot hit the mud. Then a curved piece of steel appeared. It was the conning tower. The Greyback was sitting upright on its keel. It looked proud and strong even after 75 years. Some people on the ship started to cry. They had finally found her. But as the cameras got closer, the happy feeling went away. The mood changed fast. The first thing they saw was the deck gun. The 4-inch cannon was not tucked away. It was swung out and pointed at the sky. This was not how a sub looked when it was trying to hide. This was how a sub looked when it was ready to fight. Commander Moore had decided to stay on the surface and fire back. Maybe he thought he could hit the plane, or maybe he just did not have time to dive. Whatever the reason, he ordered his men to the gun. It was a choice made in a few seconds that lasted forever. The camera moved to the conning tower and showed a huge hole. A 500-pound bomb had hit the back of the tower with incredible force. The metal was torn and peeled inward. It was the exact damage the Japanese pilot had described. But there was a tiny detail that almost everyone misses until they look very close. The main hatch was open. It was not blown off by the bomb. It was just open, as if someone was halfway through it when the world ended. If that hatch was open, the explosion went straight into the heart of the submarine. It also meant that men were still on the bridge or climbing the ladder when the bomb hit. They were caught between the open air and the safety of the hull. The cameras showed that the dive planes were set to go down. The engines were running. The Greyback was trying to dive while the bomb was tearing it apart. This was a total nightmare. Water would have rushed into the control room like a river. It was not a slow leak. It was a wall of water hitting the men who were trying to steer the boat. The robot moved along the hull to see more. About 50 yards away, they found a field of debris. There were pieces of the deck and metal fragments everywhere. It looked like the pilot had come back to hit the boat again with machine guns or another bomb. He wanted to make sure the sub stayed down. The Greyback did not just sink slowly. With the tower destroyed and the hatch open, it would have filled with water and dropped like a stone. It was a 1,400-foot fall into the dark. Inside that steel tube, 80 men felt every single foot of that drop. Plain and simple, they never had a chance once that bomb hit. Sailors who never left their posts. The pressure hull of a sub is like a vault. It is built to be sealed tight with thick walls and strong hatches. When a sub sinks without breaking apart, that engineering creates a time capsule. At 1,400 feet, the water is so cold and there is so little oxygen that things do not rot like they do on the surface. Big fish and crabs that eat shipwrecks usually cannot get inside a sealed room. What goes down there stays exactly the same for a very long time. When the cameras looked through the holes in the Greyback, the team expected to see a mess of twisted metal and chaos. But if you look a little closer, you find the real story. The men of the Greyback were still at their stations. In the engine room, the remains were right next to the big diesel engines. In the torpedo room, they were near the tubes. In the control room, they were sitting by the instruments they used to steer the boat. 75 years later, they were still doing their jobs. This was so shocking that some of the search team had to look away from the monitors. They were not prepared to see that much order in a place of death. Usually, when a ship starts to go down, people run for the exits. It is a natural human reaction to try and save yourself. You see people fighting for life jackets or trying to get to the deck. But a submarine does not work that way. In a sub, every man has a specific job that keeps the whole boat alive. If the man at the engines leaves, the boat stops. If the man at the depth controls runs away, the boat crashes. The only way to survive is for everyone to stay exactly where they are supposed to be. The men of the Greyback knew this. Even when the water was rushing in and the lights went out, they stayed. Even when the boat was spinning down into the blackness, they did not move. The freezing water preserved more than just their positions. The cameras saw personal items that were still in place. There were boots still laced up and belts with tools still hanging on them. They saw headphones resting near the sonar station. An operator had been listening for the enemy until the very end. The deep ocean had created a moment frozen in time. The leader of the search team made a quick decision. He told everyone they would not go inside. They would film from the outside, but they would not touch anything. There is a line between learning history and disturbing a grave. He was not going to cross that line. The video footage did more than just show the boat. It answered questions that had been around for decades. Some people thought an American plane had hit the Greyback by mistake, but the damage on the hull proved that was not true. The metal was torn in a way that only matched Japanese bombs. Other people had crazy theories about secret gold or mysterious cargo that made the sub sink. The USS Greyback was hidden by a single digit for 75 years. Does this make you wonder how many other secrets are buried in old files? Like and subscribe for more.